I'm Jodelle Seagrave, and I oversee strategic initiatives for PRIVO. It's my pleasure now to introduce Smarty Pants, one of the wonderful companies who have helped to make today's event possible. Representing Smarty Pants today is Vice President and Strategy Savant, Michael Desmarais. Prior to joining Smarty Pants, Michael has had a brilliant career in strategic consulting and research with Paramount Pictures and Viacom. And Michael's joined in the room today by his Senior Research Director, Emily Young. So, Michael, welcome and thank you.
Great. Okay, thanks everyone. Yeah, you can hear me? Okay, great. Thanks everyone. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks to PRIVO for allowing us to be here today. This is a nice treat for my colleague Emily and I. We're in the table in the back there. So we come from the world of market research. So there's a lot of overlap from what we've been talking about today, but we come at it from a slightly different point of view because we're on the ground with kids and families every day. So we are in the trenches talking about them. So these topics come up directly and indirectly all the time. So it's really, really refreshing and interesting for us to hear from your point of view what's important to you guys and what you guys are hearing. Also, I'm really glad that I'm coming directly after that panel because hopefully I'm going to continue some of the dialogue that they brought up, which is about putting kids first. So again, we're really excited for that. So a little bit about us. There we go. So we are a primary custom research firm who does qualitative and quantitative research. And when we opened our virtual doors 18 years ago, kids and family were really at the core of who we are and what we do. And that continues today, although we've expanded our services beyond kids and family. But again, kids and family are really at our core. And so I'm excited to share some stories from the field about kids and what they think about, what they talk about when it comes to privacy and online privacy in particular. I'll get this out of the way quickly. We work with a lot of global brands across categories. We've had the opportunity to work with a lot of your colleagues on some really exciting initiatives. And again, we're excited to share some thoughts with you guys from the field. So let's get some kids and family basics out of the way just to kind of level set us. Again, we'll go through this really quickly. As we know, there are about 70 million kids under the age of 18 in the US right now, which is about 22% of the US population. And there's fairly evenly distribution of that by age group. And as you guys know as well as anyone, the nature of childhood is really changing these days. Sorry, let me just move this. And there's a lot of societal forces that play that are really driving these changes that I'd want to talk about quickly. First is the shift in parenting styles. We have all heard the terms. We've heard helicopter parent, snow cloud parent, jellyfish parenting, which is my new favorite one. But what that means is led to a proliferation of households where kids really are at the center of the household these days. So what that does is creates children who don't know of a world where they're not the center and they don't get to call the shots in at least some degree on the decisions that are made in the house. Second, the proliferation of devices, which we've talked about ad nauseum. But what that's led to is this sense of instant gratification. It's sort of rewiring the brain, changing expectations of what kids are looking for. There's the social realm. Kids really want to be a part of this digital space to kind of grow and expand and build upon their networks. And at the same time, decreasing, we're seeing kids simply have less time to simply be kids, be creative, be left to their own devices. And they're sort of challenged to fill their time. They're not just allowed to be kids. Also, we're seeing that their IRL social networks are changing. We know that neighborhoods are changing. We know that they're not as likely to go outside and have that close network of friends that are trusted, they can rely on. So we know their social networks in real life are changing as well. And we also know that some schools are decreasing playtime, decreasing recess time, replacing them with more kind of academic pursuits. So this whole confluence of things is coming together, and it's leading to a place where kids often can't just play. They often don't know how to just play. That's a sort of a foreign concept to them. They don't have as much easy access to, in real life, friendship networks. And they become dependent on instant fun and constant progression, constantly moving forward. So a lot of ways, digital has become the default for them. And when you talk to kids, they do it kind of begrudgingly a lot of time. They don't always want to default to digital, but that's sort of where they are in their lives. And it's often the only option they do have for entertainment. So these dynamics are not new. These have been going on for a decade or so. Definitely, as we've heard a lot of speakers say, they've been accelerated and pushed forward by the pandemic. And I think we'll all agree we don't really know the long-term impact of them. But in a lot of ways, it's accelerated a lot of these trends. So just some quick numbers. Again, you guys could probably write this slide yourself. But you know, we hear the trope all the time that kids are addicted to screens. Let's put that aside for a minute, whether you agree or not. But we can't disagree with the fact that kids are spending their time on digital devices, and it bears out in the numbers when you look at the activities that they're doing on a daily basis. Digital activities outweigh analog to a staggering degree. And real quickly, so as much as online safety is critical, so that's why we're here today. So the rest of my talk is going to get you through the eyes of kids to really hear the language they use when they're thinking about privacy. And something that a lot of speakers who said that I just want to reiterate real quickly is obviously kids under 18 are not a monolith. There is a huge variety of cognitive abilities, emotional abilities, online behaviors and preferences. So I'm going to talk in some broad strokes and do some broad age categories. But remember, obviously we know the kids are not a monolith. So let's start with kids and privacy. So let's go up high first, 10,000 feet. Let's talk about privacy itself. So not even online privacy. When you talk to kids about the idea of privacy, let's look how it kind of moves across the age scale. When you talk to the youngest kids, your 5-year-old, maybe to 8-year-old, it's about doing things without people seeing them. It's very simple, it's very basic, it's very ego-driven, just like kids are developmentally. So when we ask this boy, what's privacy mean? He talks about, it's time when I'm alone so I can go to the potty. So things like that. So again, it's time that he can be by himself. As we start to move into the tween years, you start to see peer relationships really change in the dynamic here. And that really impacts the meaning of privacy. So they have secrets, they maybe tell other people their secrets, but they're worrying about those secrets getting out. So that dynamic of secret telling starts to play into privacy. Aging up to high school, and then you start thinking more about what the judgment of others means and how that impacts their take on privacy. So it's not just keeping your secrets private, but it's keeping them free from judgment. We've heard a lot about judgment today, and again, this is the age where that really starts to kick in, the eyes of others upon you start to kick in. Getting a little bit older, it's things that you don't want people to have privy to. And it's not until you get sort of the older high school age where they start talking about privacy in a way that feels very familiar to us who are thinking about the digital space. So you can see this quote from our 16-year-old girl. Privacy means being free from people or certain situations that might be distracting or even dangerous. So that's when you start to see a much more crystallization and understanding of what online privacy means. Then when you start to drill down to online privacy, it's interesting. Once you get past the youngest kids, you see a lot of uniformity, and it's very simple the way they define this. So for our youngest kids, you get a little bit of, and I'll show a video in a second, a little bit of, online privacy? I'm not even sure what that means. Remember, these youngest kids probably don't have a cell phone. They probably have a tablet with just wireless access on it, maybe a few apps. Their parents are closely monitoring them. So this idea of online privacy just does not compute. When you talk to tweens and teens, then, again, it's really about personal information. It's really about keeping that personal information safe. And so it's staying away from bad people. Again, we are always struck by this language that we equate to the sort of the stranger danger language that has been around forever, but they are parroting that language back in this context of online privacy. So let's just do a quick snapshot of some quick videos to help see in their own words how kids talk about online privacy.
What does privacy mean when you're online?
What's online mean?
Online means when you are watching YouTube or playing a game on your tablet. What does privacy mean when you're online?
I like it quiet sometimes.
Why do you like it quiet?
So I can hear whatever I'm watching better.
Okay.
I can hear it better.
Okay. What does hearing it better help you do?
learn.
Learn? What kind of things are you learning?
So, like in this monster truck game, like
Look at me.
there's a button that you have to press and the monster truck goes.
So you need it quiet to concentrate on how to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I'm online, privacy means to not share any of your personal information to others, strangers online.
When I'm online, privacy means like people not having your personal information and like you being able to go on a place without getting like bombarded by people.
Hi, I'm Nina and I'm 16 years old. I'm going to answer 3 questions. The first one being, what does privacy mean? Privacy means being free from like people or like certain situations that may be like distracting or even dangerous. The second question is, what does privacy mean when you're online? Privacy online, I feel like means keeping like private and personal information about yourself off of the internet and just keeping it to yourself. Not only is it like a privacy thing, but I also feel like it's a safety issue. But anyways, the last question, do I feel safe online? Me personally, I feel safe online because I know my limits. I know what I should and shouldn't be posting. I know like I shouldn't be interacting with strangers online. I know how to manage my own accounts. Like, I've been on social media for a while. I have, like, Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, and I understand that, you know, you can't be talking to strangers. You can't be posting your location. Like, these are all things that you might not think are terrible, but they're dangerous and you want to keep yourself safe online. So, thank you.
Kids are very confident. They have a lot of confidence in their ability to control their environment. Again, from their point of view, they feel very confident about this. I think Sarah said in the earlier presentation, this is all about do I feel safe? And kids largely feel safe because they feel confident in their abilities. And also they're confident in their abilities to allay their parents' fears. They know what they need to say, they know what they need to do to help sort of allay their parents' fears. So they know at a basic level, don't give out your address, don't give out your phone number. They know there are parental controls that they trust are keeping them safe to a degree. Again, I think it's important how savvy they consider themselves, how savvy, how confident they are. You can see the quote on the left, I feel like I know what I'm doing. I know what can be a scam. I know what can be unsafe for me. The quote on the right, I feel safe because I know my limits. I know what I should and shouldn't be doing. So again, growing up as they did, they're feeling very confident in their personal ability to control the dialogue, to control their level of safety. And so when things like PII and age verification certainly come up sometimes, that's something for the adults. That's something that the adults are taking care of. It's something for them when it does become a barrier that we heard a lot of people talk about. It's something to work your way around. So again, that all plays to that savviness in terms of getting what they need. And also we hear a lot of, they put the onus on other people. They don't necessarily put the onus on companies. They don't necessarily see companies as a threat or the bad guy. They're more worried about faceless, nameless people coming after them. They're more of a threat than big tech, in other words. So it's about protecting themselves, again, self-preservation from people who might want to do them harm, oftentimes in the real world, as how they're framing it. So, as I close in my last few minutes, so obviously your jobs become more complex by the minute. Legislation, new technologies, constantly evolving, and we can't help you with that today. But what we hopefully can help you with is give you some words that we hear from kids themselves about how they want to feel more safe online. What you guys can do, partnering with your brand teams, your marketing teams, your agencies to help campaigns, messages, products that help kids feel safe. And the way we like to frame this up is when talking to kids, the conversation is less about feeling safe It's more about feeling good online. The conversation about safety almost feels like, this is your brain on drugs. I'm old saying that one. But that's the conversation that kind of goes over their head and they kind of tune out. But what they want to feel is good online. And one of our previous speakers said that, that's the thing that gets the most complaint is online bullying. And that's what's really weighing on kids are those kind of things. So how can we make them feel safe? How can we make them feel good online is the conversation that we want to start. Because that's really where the framework is. So when you ask kids, how can we help with that, they're really articulate in their ideas of what this could be. So we've kind of bubbled them up to 6 different themes. The first one is the unspoken word. So they're looking for ways to kind of imbue their online communications, their online interactions with some of the body language and facial expressions and dances, those kind of non-verbal visual cues that are so much a part of their in real life conversation. This is the way they communicate, and they're looking for ways to do more of that online. GIF culture certainly does that. Meme culture does that kind of thing, but they're looking for more ways to feel more comfortable expressing themselves using the unspoken word. The second one is this idea of concentric circles of communication. And this is about ways of having more intimate, smaller conversations, sort of a sidebar, if you will, within the larger conversation. So not pulling yourself out of the larger conversation, but allowing kind of a smaller conversation. We talk about it at our company about when you're at a cocktail party and you maybe have an aside with someone, but you're still part of the larger conversations. So kids want that ability to kind of have sidebars and not lose the larger plot, but be able to communicate with a smaller group. Next one's really important because as we all know, kids are really stressed. Their lives are at 200 miles an hour, so they're looking for moments of pause. That rapid-fire interactions are super overwhelming, and kids need a moment to collect their thoughts, think about what they want to say, take a breath. We talk about a lot of kids will say they'll pretend that they've lost connection to kind of just step away for a while, when in fact they're just looking for a mental break. So how can we help them create space and take a moment of pause to collect themselves? Obvious one is safe spaces, but we're talking about safe meaning judgment-free zone. Where can I be online that I can be vulnerable, that I can ask questions where there are no trolls, that I can role play events, role play real-world situations that are very daunting for them. So how can we help them create those spaces? Intergenerational translation is surprisingly huge. They want to bridge the gap linguistically, emotionally, rationally with their parents in particular, so they can come to some non-emotional agreement on hopes, dreams, struggles, all the things that we as parents and kids are struggling with. How can we find non-emotional ways to kind of bridge that gap together? And is there a space for brands to help with that? And then finally, what we're calling information inspiration. So school-age children are really hungry and they're really ready to learn. They talk a lot about current curriculum, current textbooks, current teachers, missing the boat a lot of times. The information being portrayed doesn't feel relevant, doesn't feel for them, so they're thirsty for mentors, instructors that can help them with these conversations in a way that could be accessed easily. So again, information inspiration. So that is what I wanted to share today. So open to any questions, but again, I think the most important thing was I wanted to bring to you today a different point of view of kids on the ground to help you see when you guys are thinking up here, what kids down here are thinking about what they're talking about. So thank you guys very much for having me.